Welcome to the final episode of the first series of Speciality Sessions with me, your host, Natasha Klymczuk. My guest today, Christian Kohlpaintner, is currently a member of the supervisory board at Evonik and until August was CEO at Brenntag. Welcome to the podcast, Christian.
Hey, Natasha. Great to see you.
Yeah, you too. Well, first of all, how is life treating you? Obviously, you, I was going to say retired, but semi-retired. How are you coping?
It's actually quite an interesting experience. It's a different time pressure, I must say, from a 24/7 job as a CEO now into putting a portfolio of supervisory board positions together. So I really do enjoy that.
Look, for anybody who doesn't know, would you mind giving us a short introduction and tell us a bit about your position now at Evonik, having left Brenntag?
Yeah, no, I had this supervisory board position at Evonik now for almost 2 years, so to speak, in parallel during my CEO reign at Brenntag, just to prepare me also for that next phase.
Mm-hmm.
But also, bringing my experience and my knowledge to another industry player, because I strongly and firmly believe, and I'm sure we talk about this later, about the European chemical industry and the future and where it's heading towards.
The European chemical sector is under a lot of pressure at the moment, both from regulatory requirements, competition, innovation. What do you see as the sort of, speaking about it more positively, the opportunities within the European chemicals market? Because I think we're so fixed on speaking about the challenges. I think sometimes we forget that this is a really great industry.
No, absolutely. And I fully agree. And this is, I think I have said it in various interviews that we should stop complaining and really see the opportunity, which is residing in this, now I would not call it a mess, but in the structural change the industry needs to go through.
Yeah.
And the industry always has, to some extent, reinvented itself, because at least I'm in the industry now since more than 30 years, and I've seen the increasing pressure from China, from the Middle East, and from other non-traditional players in the past, where the European chemical industry has always reacted positively with more innovation, with more specialization. And there's a reason why the home of specialty chemicals is still Europe. And this is exactly a result of that pressure, which forced the whole industry, or large parts of the industry, to specialize and innovate to counter that pressure.
The resilient industry, I know that's something that it's something that we've spoken about at length before is resilience, and whether that's from an industry or whether that's from an individual. I know that's something that you're sort of keen to champion, really, about pushing through things that have been challenges. Leading a company like Brenntag through, big market disruption. You've led businesses through different periods of change, transformation. What's helped you stay calm and, I suppose, clear-headed through situations like that? Because I think there'll be a lot of business leaders at the moment who will value some of that advice.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's always a very personal thing. What I consider as resilience and what helps me to stay resilient is probably something else for somebody else.
Yeah.
And also, I would say when it comes to businesses, also resilience and resilient business models are something I was always interested in. So that goes hand in hand. So what I have tried to do in my previous responsibilities is always to build business models which are resilient in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me always the confidence that actually the businesses I'm responsible for are surviving, I would say, any catastrophe or any crisis you might have in such a business, because they are built in the proper way. And the more you shape the environment around yourself in a sort of resilience, the more degree of freedom you have to also have personal resilience as well. And it goes also down to people, making sure that you have the right people around you who know what to do in challenging times, and so on and so forth. So the overall framework is always important, and you should start from day one in a new responsibility always to shape your environment to be more resilient than it was before you took it over. Now, the personal aspect of that, and this is what I said before, is a very personal thing, is that you need to learn to distinguish what is important and what is not important. And this is, of course, sometimes, it's a journey, still a journey for me today.
Hard.
But absolutely, it's hard. But I think there are very few things you can always talk to yourself and think about. Is what is really important and what is not important, and that already helps you to calibrate things and say what is a real issue and what is not a real issue. So that's, I would say, the first part: build a resilient context,
Hmm.
and then learn to clearly distinguish what is important and what is not important, and then many other mechanisms kick in.
And do you think that resilience is 100% learnt from an individual point of view? Or do you think this is something that people are intrinsically built with? Because I've got my own views on this.
Yeah, I think it's a combination, as
Yeah.
always. Yeah, right. I mean, it's always a combination between you more a person has a tendency to become very nervous very quickly, or
Mhm.
are you more a person who's staying calm also in very difficult situations.
Mm.
But that's only a fraction of it, a small fraction of it, I would say,
Mm.
because you can learn what is important in resilience.
Sure.
Just the simple exercise I mentioned before, just to sit down and write on a piece of paper, what is really important and what is not important, what is signal and what is noise.
Mm.
And I always said, as a CEO of a large organization, you get so many issues all the time.
Yeah.
And you need to be brutal in
Yeah.
distinguishing within seconds sometimes, saying,
Yeah.
okay, this is a signal, or no, this is just the usual noise you get.
Mm.
What is a real signal I should take
Mm.
care of, and what is noise?
Yeah.
And I've seen people getting overwhelmed by the noise
Yeah.
because they don't have the experience or have not learned it, or they never had somebody to teach it to them or show it to them.
And how do you think that different tiers of leadership can support teams in building resilience? Because there'll be lots of people listening to this in a variety of seniority levels, right? You'll
Mm,
have people
mm,
that are in the first line management role,
mm,
maybe
mm.
managing one or two people versus people leading larger organizations. What can we do as leaders to support people in building that resilience so when the tough times do come, that's the foundation that's set?
Mm. Uh, Everything starts with the team, and everything is the team.
Mhm.
I'm a fundamental believer in that. Even if here, yes, you're a CEO, and here and there, that's unimportant if you miss out on building a strong team around you. And this is not just lip service because it's nice to say, well, I'm a team player. No, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
firmly believe in that. The team is everything. And this is where I would start from the first second I take over a new responsibility. I would have a very, very critical view on the team, how it is composed, how diverse it is,
Mm,
and how resilient are its members to deal with any kind of challenge.
yeah.
And then do the changes. And this
Mm,
is probably in every responsibility when you start the most difficult one, because at least you need to change the team in
yeah,
most cases.
yeah,
And this is, I think, where I always would encourage everyone who takes over a first responsibility with a few people he is leading, look at the team and don't make compromises. Any compromise you make at that day one or day two or week 4, and it will hunt you down. It
yeah,
will hunt you down.
yeah,
So be clear and be very transparent and tell it to people and saying, this is where I want to go to. This is what I need. This is
yeah,
what I see. And this is what we need to change.
yeah.
And I think then in that stage, people actually, and this is always my experience, are actually accepting that.
And it creates
Even
trust, doesn't it?
it
Yeah,
creates trust because you say what you're going to do.
yeah,
But then the trust is only materializing if you also do what you have said.
yeah, yeah,
And this is where sometimes there's a mismatch when people saying, "Well, I'm doing this and that," and then nothing happens, and then
yeah,
people getting a little bit nervous. I mean, I have in my experience examples where I had to let people go, and those people I had to let go are still in a very positive contact with me
yeah,
because
yeah.
they
That's good.
understood. First of all, I always do it very decent. First, and secondly, always, in an appreciative way, because these are not bad people per se. They
Mm,
just don't fit anymore where you want to go. And when you, in a human way, interact with them and not just set them, are you out? And like sometimes, it's a hire and fire
yeah,
style in other companies.
yeah,
This will not work. But if you explain it and saying, guys, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. And this is the reason why there's a mismatch. I
people
have
get on
made the
board.
experience that, nobody's leaving or is burning the bridges behind
Mm,
herself or himself. So this is, what I've seen has worked in most cases. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work, but in most cases it works.
That's probably shown in your career history as well. I mean, you made a huge career leap from a secure CEO position at
Mm,
Brenntag to join
mm.
Clarion in a period of, where it was very unsettled, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think everything that you've just discussed there is probably everything that you've implemented. But at the time that you did that, what gave you
Mm,
the confidence to take that risk in particular? I think leaving such a stable position to go for something that
mm,
was turbulent was
mm,
an interesting move, really.
mm. I think it is very clearly built on the trust in your own capabilities. And saying, okay, I have been, at that point of time, I was about 15 years in the industry before I joined Clariant, and so I have been CEO of Budenheim for 6 years. I knew I can deal with a CEO type of
Wow.
job, or on leading a larger organization that was about 1,000 people globally.
Mhm.
So it was not huge, but it was a larger organization. So I saw that actually, I mean, somehow it works. Somehow I can do this. Somehow I can build the teams. I can,
Mhm.
create good and strong fellowship in an organization, and then start to change a company. So that gave me, how should I say, the confidence that I can trust in what I've learned and the capabilities I have. That's one part. The
Yeah,
other part is that you, of course, need to have an inherent interest in getting out of your comfort zone.
totally
And
agree.
I'm a firm believer that you only grow if you go out of your comfort zone. There is
Yeah,
zero growth by staying in your comfort zone. Zero.
yeah.
Yes. So you always need to push yourself out of the comfort zone to learn and gain stature, gravitas, or whatever. And this I knew is the ultimate exercise, right? You go the ultimate leaving a
Yeah,
comfort zone as an established CEO in a family-owned business, where
yeah,
the owners tell you, Christian, you will lead this company for the next 25 years
yeah.
because you have the task now to hand this over to our children and their grandchildren in a better shape than we give it to you today.
Got it.
This is a kind of trust level you have gotten at a family-owned business once you have received that trust.
Sure.
And leaving that and going into at that point of time, almost bankrupt company like Clariant
Mm.
during the financial crisis, who was actually now a share price of 3 Swiss francs something, which was a clear prediction of the market that Clariant will fail. That is I would say, was an ultimate get out of your comfort zone move,
Yeah.
which I did. But I also, and this is the third thing, I always knew I would regret if I would have not taken up the challenge,
Yeah.
because I knew that the CEO at that point of time, Mr. Kottmann, put a very strong team around him. And
Mhm.
this is where I learned a lot from him, actually.
Yeah.
Put 4 top executives together and saying, the 4 of us, we are going to rescue this company.
Mhm.
And then we did it. And that was, I would say, the third element of it. I knew we have a high chance that we can actually succeed. But I would always regret if I would not have taken that opportunity, if I would have not moved out of my comfort zone. And at the end, it was right. I stayed 10 years. We saved the company. We made it stronger, restructured it. A lot of transformation, which required a lot of resilience, of course, as well.
Yeah.
But at the end,
And I was just going to say that, I think everything that you've spoken about resilience beforehand, you'd had a good training ground. You'd built up your own personal resilience, so you can almost open your own playbook and say,
mm,
okay, this is how I'm going to cope and manage, and this is how I'm going to lead the team. This is
mm,
how we're going to move it out of crisis. And it all comes from previous experience, doesn't it? Something that you and I have spoken about quite a lot is you enjoy fixing things. And I
mm,
think that that's testament to the job that you've done at Clarion. And you mentioned the CEO there that built a really good team
mm.
around him. Are there any other people that have influenced your view on leadership? Or obviously we're talking about resilience here, but or views on resilience, who's shared and what lessons have they shared with you?
I think I would always recommend to people who are either starting their career or even in the middle, or even if it's stage where I am at this moment, actually saying that you need to, first of all, have a look at mentors,
Mm,
and mentors who are helping you and willing to support you in your personal growth.
mhm,
So I was lucky enough that I always had mentors, which were sometimes my bosses,
Mhm.
Sometimes not. It can
Yeah.
be, not necessarily. But I was lucky to work always for high caliber and high profile people who also had an interest to develop me, because they knew the stronger I will be, the better it is for them.
Yeah.
And this is always something which I encourage leaders, saying, invest in the quality and the capabilities of your teams to make them better every day, because it makes you better every day.
Of
And
course.
I had 3, 4 bosses in my life who actually always were that way. I never had a boss or leader who actually was trying to make me small, which a lot
That's
of
great.
lot of leaders do, which I
Yeah.
sometimes observe and I'm just shaking my head. They're
Yeah.
making others small to be large or big. I was blessed to have had bosses who actually were not that type.
I don't think that's always that common either, Christian. I think everybody's got a story about one boss, if not a couple. So I think it's the exception to the rule that you don't feel that you've had that.
No, I was blessed with that. So mentor is one thing. The second element I would always encourage people to think about is actually going for a coach
Yeah.
and having a coach with whom you work, I don't know, between 5 to 10 years together. So
Mm.
in a certain chapter of your career,
Yeah.
because then coaches also, interesting enough, become too small sometimes. If you continue to grow in your job and your responsibilities, one coach which brings you to a certain point will not bring you to the next point.
Yeah.
That's also important. So I always had a coach, at least over the last 20, 25 years, a personal coach I was always using. Because the higher you get, in many cases, also the feedback you receive is more and more twisted and tweaked and not the honest one anymore. And I think and sometimes you need to have a sparring partner with whom you can discuss and,
Yeah.
back and forth. So that's my second advice. Besides mentoring, look for a coach, and a coach which you can pay privately, which you can also ask your company as a development program to support you with. But I would always, always do this. And never forget, you will never have a coach for a lifetime. You
No.
have him or her for certain phases, and then you
Yeah.
move on, and then you need somebody else. And this is, I think, two things which are very important in my career, where I had the right character of mentors and bosses and the right coaches at the right time.
Having somebody who's going to give you honest feedback is really important. And yeah,
Absolutely.
I've learned that starting up my business, your friends and your family, my friends and family are quite honest, but the people around you are there to champion you and tell you great and instill confidence. But you need that neutral party to say to you, actually, this isn't great or that isn't great, or no, that doesn't look good, or, however that is. I
Yeah.
think it's important.
Yeah.
Um,
Or helping you to read the situation.
yeah.
And because if you grow into different ranks in a company, the
Mm.
environment around you and the way people are interacting with you and the way decisions are made and so on and so forth is changing. And sometimes when you new into that level, you can't read and understand, why is this happening to me now? What's going on? And a coach who is very experienced can help you to read this situation and to look through it and say, hey, this is the mechanism. This
Mm.
is what's going to happen. This is why. And this is where you need somebody who helps you to understand it. And
Yeah.
that, I think, is sometimes underestimated, that a coach needs to also be able to read the situation. He needs to be close to you. He needs to understand what is going around you, and then he
Mm.
can help you to do that. Got a lot of benefits out of that. Also building my resilience, by the way, because I
Yeah.
had situations where I was speechless and I didn't know what that means. And then the coach helped me that this is part of my development journey, that
Yeah.
this is normal on this kind of ranks. And then this again helps you, coming back to the entrance of our talk, what is important, what is a signal, and what is noise. And
Yeah.
these people, if they're really good coaches, also help you to distinguish between noise and signal.
Something that you said there around, when you first move into that leadership position, you can find it difficult to judge and read things. Did you find that adjustment difficult? Because a really interesting dynamic that I see, and especially, I speak to lots of people every day, is when people move from being part of the team,
Mm,
then into a leadership role, and that dynamic changes and you're no longer
mm,
friends. It's
mm.
a totally different relationship dynamic with colleagues. Is that something that you found a difficult adjustment, or was it something that, you found quite straightforward?
No, it is a challenge. In my career, I had once a situation where I moved was very early in my career in R&D, where I moved from having 3 technicians reporting to me to leading a large R&D organization with 200 people within the Höchst and Celanese group.
Yeah.
And it's different. And I was 32 years old. So you can imagine that this is a leadership challenge for a 32-year-old one to lead now a large organization of 200 people.
Hmm.
But, and all of the reports I had to deal with were very experienced PhD chemists, 20, 30 years older than me at that point of time. And this is where mentors can be very helpful. So I had a mentor at that point of time, and I said, I told him one of my biggest difficulties I have at this moment is that I have so many people who are so much older and so much more experienced than me to lead them.
Mm.
And how would they deal with that I, with 32 years, become their boss? And then he said, well, Christian, there's always a day in the life of a manager where he gets a boss who is younger
Yeah.
than himself
Yeah.
or herself. So it's just earlier or later for some.
Yeah.
So, and this again, signal to noise, what
Yeah.
I was
Why we're
thinking,
worrying.
this is a real issue.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody to help you to calibrate and say, hey, come on. Don't, this is not really a problem. And sometimes it's simple like that, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I said mentoring and coaching is very important to help
Yeah.
you on the journey of resilience.
It also comes back to experience as well. Some things that you don't have the track history, do you, of, okay, I've done this before. So putting yourself, again, growing comfort zone, everything that we've just spoken about. Interestingly, Christian, as well, with your background, you've obviously worked with manufacturers and distribution companies. And something that we've spoken about in the past is that knowledge in distribution is underused. How do you think, 'cause you've sat on both sides of the table, how do you think manufacturers can tap into that better?
Yeah, I think this is one of these missed opportunities where maybe the pressure now on the industry is helping to open up that doors better. Because I've worked on both sides of the table, so to speak. And when I joined Brenntag and I saw how a large and actually the largest chemical distributor in the world is working and how intimate they work together on one hand with the suppliers and with their customers, but also the amount of or the wealth of innovation which is happening at a chemical distributor. I was how should I say? I was not shocked. This is the wrong word. I was really, really surprised
Yeah.
why this has not been in the past and not even today utilized better by manufacturers than it is today. And the reason for it is distributors are touching a customer segment large manufacturers don't touch because they're too small volume customers, too complex to deal with. And there is, however, still on those small and smallest customers, still a strong necessity to support them with application know-how in a formulation or whatever. A small personal care independent company coming to you and saying, well, I don't like this surfactant from company X. Can you help me to fine-tune my formulation for the skincare product by using a surfactant from manufacturer Y? And this is what a distributor does, independent from the manufacturing base, independent and across the whole chemical industry. And I think there are products created with such a superior performance, which a single manufacturer can't really do because he will always recommend an alternative product he's already producing.
Yeah, of course.
A chemical distributor can recommend 10 different surfactants from 10 different suppliers. And that is elevating the quality of the solution. But this innovation know-how, which is created there in our application labs, rarely finds its way back to the manufacturer, where they say, okay, this is interesting. There obviously is a new trend to use XYZ or ABC, and we have never thought about it. And this dialogue, this openness, and this opportunity to create value for the industry in total is the, I would say, still unused opportunity in our industry, more than people think it is. And this is what I always criticize and say, guys, this is too much of a wall in between a manufacturer and a distributor when it comes to innovation, when it comes to even sharing intellectual property and many other things.
Yeah. And I think it's something that Brenntag did really well. I mean, very early in my career, I was a sales rep selling cosmetic ingredients, as you
No, I
know.
didn't know. Okay.
I used to work for a supplier of Brenntag, and
Okay.
I came and did a talk with, to a few of your colleagues, and we spent time in the innovation lab, and we did things together with my technical team, and it was a great opportunity and something that actually I never did with another company.
Okay.
I think that's a testament to Brenntag and what I suppose you guys were trying to create there.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, because there's nothing better than a customer saying that this is done good.
Yeah.
But I think what I meant is actually the backflow then to the manufacturer is
Yeah.
still, I would say, the untapped opportunity. And I think there are examples where this works, but there are many, many examples where it doesn't work. And that's the unfortunate, but it's also the opportunity.
I totally agree. Well, look, Christian, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Sure.
It's been a really great way to wrap up the first series as well. But I've asked this question to everyone who's been on the episodes, and I'd like to end with you as well. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It's always difficult to say that, but one thing I always liked, I learned it from the Brits, is stay calm and carry on. And I think this is what I always love. And because this is what you need to do. You need to stay calm, whatever comes, and then carry on and move on. So stay calm and carry on, I think, is a good recipe for success.
And a really good way to wrap up an episode where we talked about resilience for half an hour. So, Christian, thanks for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Natasha, thanks for the opportunity. All the best.